My half-sister was reborn twice. In her first life, she chose the sixth prince, yet it was the ninth prince who ascended the throne. In her second life, she chose the ninth prince, yet it was the sixth prince who ascended the throne. In her third life, no matter whom I chose, she sought to destroy it. I chose neither the sixth prince nor the ninth prince, but instead selected the first prince, who bore a disability. She was dumbfounded. Later, I ascended the throne as emperor, and my half-sister became a prisoner beneath my feet. She raved that this couldn't be possible, only the sixth or ninth prince could ever become emperor. I couldn't help but laugh. She would likely never understand, who the emperor was didn't matter. What mattered was this: whomever I chose would become emperor. In my previous 2 lives, I chose the sixth prince and the ninth prince. But this time, I chose myself. Main text: on the day I knew the sixth prince would come to break off our engagement, I ordered the street before my gate swept clean of every fallen leaf. The sixth prince looked ashamed, saying his heart belonged to my younger sister, Gong Chiyue, and he could only betray my sincere affection. Holding the jade pendant he'd given me as a token of his affection, my eyes stung with tears. Unable to bear my distress, he said gravely, "This matter tarnishes your reputation. I promise to do one thing for you. Should you ever need anything in the future, bring this jade pendant to me. Your Highness's frankness shows your noble character. It is I who am unworthy of such kindness. I shall remember your promise. Excuse me now, as I am unwell." I bowed with lowered eyes, a single tear striking the floor and shattering into droplets. Before he could speak, I turned and hurried away. Back in my chambers, my maid Liutsui comforted me. "Miss, His Highness isn't heartless toward you. After you left, he stared at your retreating figure for a long while." In this servant's opinion, second Miss is clearly behind this. I wiped away my tears, a faint smile touching my lips. This was undoubtedly Gong Chiyue's doing. My half-sister, she had reincarnated twice. In her first life, she chose the sixth prince, yet it was my husband, the ninth prince, who ascended the throne. In her second life, she chose the ninth prince, yet it was my husband, the sixth prince, who ultimately became emperor. This is the third life. No matter whom I choose, she intends to sabotage it. Since that is the case, I shall grant her wish and see if she can laugh last. Within days, the news of the sixth prince breaking off our engagement spread like wildfire. Some said the sixth prince was like the moon in the heavens, beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. Others claimed my conduct was improper, and he discovered it, leading to the annulment. The source of these rumors was obvious. After pondering, I added another rumor, that the sixth prince admired the second daughter of the Grand Tutor's household, vowing to be with her for a lifetime. The rumor directly accused the sixth prince of arrogance and tyranny, treating the Grand Tutor's household as his harem, with the Grand Tutor's daughters at his disposal for marriage. It also branded Gong Chiyue as unprincipled, stealing her elder sister's betrothed, her behavior wanton and her conduct scandalous. This rumor sent shockwaves through the capital. While no one dared mock the sixth prince, they laughed at Gong Chiyue. They laughed at her for overestimating herself, for foolishly believing the sixth prince belonged solely to her, and for disregarding imperial decorum. Gong Chiyue wept uncontrollably before her father. "Your daughter knows not when she caught the sixth prince's eye, nor that he would break his betrothal to my elder sister for my sake. Even if I remain unmarried all my days, becoming a nun, I would never dare ruin my sister's marriage. Should she resent me for this, I would shave my head and enter a convent to prove my innocence." Her father had always cherished her. He frowned and said coldly, "Yao Guang, you should know this has nothing to do with Chiyue. It is her exceptional grace that earned the sixth prince's regard. Whichever of you marries him will bring honor to our Grand Tutor's household. This matter is settled. Harbor no resentment. Your father will find you another suitable match." I had witnessed this scene twice already. My heart had long since grown numb. I offered a gentle smile. "Father speaks wisely. Your daughter has never resented my younger sister. As the elder sister, I should care for her more. It is her exceptional brilliance that invites slander. However, this matter ultimately tarnishes a maiden's reputation. For my sister's sake, Father, please find a way to secure her betrothal to the sixth prince swiftly, lest those with ulterior motives exploit the situation." "No. Gong Chiyue's eyes flashed with panic as she declared firmly, "Father, I have no desire to marry yet, and certainly not to the sixth prince. Forcing a marriage now would only plunge me deeper into scandal." Her plea was heartfelt. Father's expression shifted between light and shadow. "Your father knows what he's doing." Yet soon enough, the imperial decree granting the marriage arrived at the Grand Tutor's residence, making her union with the sixth prince an undeniable fact. The sixth prince came to see me, his expression stern, anger flickering in his bright eyes. "I thought we had made ourselves clear. Yet you resort to such methods to slander Qiuyu? Your intentions are truly malicious. Your Highness, this humble maiden does not understand. First you seek to annul the betrothal, then you accuse me of wickedness? What wrong have I committed to deserve such humiliation? You still play innocent? Then perhaps your Highness should have me brought before the Imperial Clan office for thorough questioning." "As if you were worthy of the Imperial Household Department? Why not?" A clear voice sounded from the doorway as the ninth prince strolled in. Dressed in purple robes, fan in hand, his bearing was graceful yet noble and strangely unsettling. I was momentarily stunned. In 2 lifetimes, I had been married to both of them. I knew their natures well. The ninth prince was unrestrained and arrogant, a bit more willful and capricious. He was cunning and prone to suspicion. He had me deposed and reinstated 3 times, grinding me down in the harem for many years. He disdained beauties but adored fine horses. I tampered with his most prized 1,000-mile steed. He fell, breaking his spine. From a fiery, ambitious young emperor, he became a cripple confined to bed for 30 years. I spared his life, forcing him to witness my deposition of his throne, the enthronement of a prince, the successive removal of 3 more heirs, and finally my support for his grandson's ascension. Thus, I secured firm control over the great Chu dynasty. The sixth prince, however, was cold and aloof, untouched by worldly concerns. He was quick to anger and equally swift to turn away, utterly devoid of affection. Though he married me, he always treated me with the respect due a military strategist, honoring me, yet never loving me. And I never craved his affection. He brought Palace Autumn Moon into the palace, indulging in passionate affairs with her and showering her with favor until she reigned supreme among the concubines. My path within the harem grew increasingly difficult. Left with no choice, I added countless beauties to his harem, each bearing a striking resemblance to Gong Chiyue. These women, diverse in form and all possessing their own unique charms, captivated him. He lingered among them, gradually growing distant from Gong Chiyue and neglecting state affairs. I counseled him while simultaneously managing the front court on his behalf. Later, he died in the arms of his favorite concubine. I dealt with Gong Chiyue, ascended as Empress Dowager to rule from behind the curtain, and guided the crown prince to become a wise ruler. I lived to a ripe old age of 80 before passing away peacefully. Both of them were unfaithful souls. And I finally understood, in this world, I had no one to rely on. Only by standing on my own 2 feet and forging my own path could I survive. So, in this lifetime, I would choose neither of them. But that didn't stop me from using them. The day after the sixth prince annulled our betrothal. In my dazed state, I encountered the ninth prince. Provoked by his scornful taunts, I fiercely dismantled his intricate chessboard and declared with defiant resolve, even if I, Gong Yaoguang, grow old alone, I shall never again set foot in the imperial family. Yet the ninth prince possessed an innate rebellious streak. The more you forbid him from doing something, the more he insists on doing it. Disregarding my tarnished reputation, he petitioned the palace for an imperial decree of betrothal. Before the decree could even leave the Ministry of Rites, the ninth prince rushed over, eager to rub salt in the wound. He slipped into my chambers at night, playfully informing me of the news. Only when he saw my eyes brimming with tears and my face flushed with indignation did he depart, satisfied, with a hearty laugh. In short, both of them are sick. The ninth prince raised an eyebrow, smiling faintly. I forgot to inform His Highness the sixth prince that Yao Guang is now my betrothed. Should she face any charges, they must be heard by the imperial clan court. Does His Highness truly intend to send my betrothed there? May I ask what crime she has committed? The sixth prince was stunned by this revelation. His handsome features instantly hardened into a grim expression. Without looking at the sixth prince, his cold, piercing gaze shifted to me. Miss Gong truly has skill. I underestimated you. Your Highness may say what you will, Yao Guang has nothing to hide. The inner quarters of a maiden's residence are not places for men to enter freely. Should your Highness come again to accuse me, please bring Sister Chiyue with you, or come with His Highness the Ninth Prince. This will avoid any appearance of impropriety and prevent further damage to this humble maiden's reputation. Should such an incident occur again, this humble maiden will have no choice but to hang herself at the gate of the Sixth Prince's residence to prove her innocence. The Sixth Prince was enraged. His face flushed crimson as he stormed off in indignation. I stared at his retreating figure. A flicker of pity stirred within me. The matter of annulling the betrothal would soon fall upon his head as well. Pity him, still so devoted to standing up for his beloved sister Chiyue. The Ninth Prince seized my chin with a cold sneer. Is he that handsome? Don't forget, it was this prince who saved you from peril. It is this prince you should thank. His grip was brutal, the pain making my eyes well with tears beyond my control. He snorted coldly and released his grip. You have 3 days to banish him from your heart. My people belong to me, body and soul. Gong Yaoguang, I can restore your reputation, and I can destroy it. Consider your options. He flicked open his folding fan and strode out with effortless grace. I called softly, Your Highness. He turned his head, gazing at me silently, his eyes cold, arrogant, and wicked. A faint smile touched my lips. Your Highness, dare you wager with this humble maiden? I wager there is no fate between us, nor can we ever be wed. Should I lose, I shall henceforth follow your every command, dedicating body and soul solely to you. Should you lose, you must promise to do 3 things for me in the future. Dare you wager? The Ninth Prince remained cold. Based on you? Yes, based on this servant. He scoffed, suddenly stepping closer. Very well, Gong Yaoguang. I'll take your wager. But if you lose, on our wedding day, I shall make it a memory you'll carry for the rest of your life. He laughed wildly and walked away. I shook my head, amused by his overconfidence. 2 lives, 2 worlds, the only person I'd carry in my memory forever was one person, and it wasn't him. Nor was it the Sixth Prince. Lu Chui disliked the Ninth Prince. She found him arrogant and overbearing, nowhere near as gentle and considerate as the Sixth Prince. She often sighed, wishing the second young miss hadn't stolen the Sixth Prince away. I smiled and ordered her to prepare some pastries for the Ninth Prince. Young miss, could it be? You truly favor the Ninth Prince? One mustn't judge by appearances. The Ninth Prince is far superior to the Sixth. Before, I simply failed to see his true worth. Liu Tsui's mouth fell open, disbelief mingling with reluctance to accept it. She painstakingly prepared 4 delicacies, personally delivering them to the Ninth Prince's residence. Yet she returned in a huff. I asked what was wrong. She said she encountered a dog on the way, all the pastries ended up in its belly. I nodded with a smile. That dog must have been quite handsome, wearing a blue robe. Miss, how did you know Second Miss was at the Ninth Prince's residence? How did I know? It was merely a tactic Palace Chiu you had employed in her previous life. In that past existence, after her rebirth, she laid plans early on. Traveling incognito as a man, she befriended many literati and scholars, seizing the opportunity to meet the Ninth Prince. They journeyed together, galloping through fields of blossoms, forging a deep bond of friendship. Later, through a twist of fate, the Ninth Prince discovered her true identity as a woman. Breaking off our engagement became the logical conclusion. Alas, she was too clever by half. In her previous life, Gong Chiyuan never imagined that the one who ascended the throne would not be the Ninth Prince she had fought so fiercely to claim, but the Sixth Prince, the very one she had discarded. She couldn't comprehend it. When I sent her to her death, she cried out in fury, demanding, "Why? Why must I lose to you, even after rebirth?" I replied simply, "No matter how many times you are reborn, you will always be defeated by me." She died beautifully. A slender sword scar across her neck, blood gushing forth, blooming into a breathtaking painting. I ordered this scene painted and burned it for her in the underworld, where she now dwells as a ghost. May it serve as a lasting lesson. She should have learned her lesson by now. This time around, she's grown wiser. She won't choose the sixth prince, nor the ninth. She'll likely keep them both dangling, waiting until the dust settles before stepping in to pluck the fruit. But to pluck the fruit, it must first bear. Not long after, Shiliang presented countless fine steeds as tribute. Among them was an exceptionally spirited horse, snow-white coat, jet-black hooves. His Majesty bestowed upon it the name White Cloud Treading Black, declaring that whoever could tame the steed would become its master. Gong Chiyue appeared in male attire to tame the steed. Yet as she did so, her hairpin slipped, her beard fell away, and her long locks fluttered in the wind. In the end, she tamed the horse and became its master. As she earned thunderous applause, she also stunned the ninth prince. Only then did he realize his lifelong confidant was actually a woman. Gong Chiyue presented the steed to the ninth prince as an apology, then turned and departed with grace. The ninth prince, however, lingered in melancholy for a long while, even losing interest in his newly acquired horse. Upon hearing the news, my fingers remained steady on the strings, not a single note out of place. Lu Chui, enraged, pricked her finger with her embroidery needle. Ouch! She really has no shame. Between face and life, which is more important? Life, of course. Yes, I agree, it's life. I always felt that between me and Gong Chiyue, there was an inescapable knot. It seemed only when one of us died could the other live freely and contentedly in this world. Therefore, when Gong Chiyue sought to kill me, I felt no anger. Because I thought the same. She could repeatedly erase the past and start anew, while I possessed the memories of each rebirth. It was only fair. In the dead of night, the ninth prince slipped into my boudoir. The scent of gardenias from Gong Chiyue's chambers lingered on him. I feigned deep sleep until a hand slowly tightened around my throat. Forced open, my eyes met the ninth prince's. He snorted coldly, released his grip, and looked down at me with haughty disdain. I once thought you were clever and quick-witted, worthy of being my consort. Now I see you fall short. I sighed. Your Highness, next time, please use the door. How I conduct myself is none of your concern. Today, your Highness gained a confidant and 1,000-mile steed, yet you've forgotten I am your betrothed, the one destined to share your bed and your grave. His face remained cold, his expression shifting like shifting clouds. After a long moment, he seemed to make a decision. Soon, you won't be. Then your Highness will lose. I accept defeat gracefully. Those 3 promises are your compensation. The ninth prince snorted coldly and turned to leave. Before he leapt through the window, I asked curiously, Your Highness, suppose one day your steed and Gong Chiyue both fell into the water. You could only save one. Who would you choose? Plop, the ninth prince seemed to slip as he climbed out the window. The ninth prince had broken off our engagement. Gong Chiyue's engagement was also broken off. The difference was, the ninth prince publicly claimed I was consumed by jealousy and unworthy to be his consort. Gong Chiyue, however, was said to be accompanying the Empress Dowager to Guiyun Temple for Buddhist rites, needing a clear mind and heart free of attachments, thus necessitating a temporary annulment. On the day of the annulment, the sixth prince pledged an eternal vow before the Grand Tutor's mansion. He vowed his heart would never waver, willing to wait for her 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, a lifetime. Her treatment stood in stark contrast to mine. My reputation was shattered, drowning in a flood of vilification. She was the object of universal admiration and reverence. Countless young ladies not only sought her out but begged her advice on how to be personally selected by the Empress Dowager to accompany her on pilgrimages. Everyone knew the Empress Dowager never shortchanged her attendants. Returning from such a journey guaranteed rewards, but more crucially, having the Empress Dowager's favor was like possessing a protective amulet, a lifetime of security was assured. Gong Chiyue was constantly attending social engagements. Only I faced my father's wrath alone. If you possessed even 1/10 of your sister's wit, you wouldn't have ended up like this. You couldn't even secure the sixth prince, and now you've lost hold of the ninth prince too. What was the point of giving birth to you? His pent-up resentment poured out onto me in a torrent. I listened quietly, my mind wandering. In my first life, I married the ninth prince's empress, while Gong Chiyue married the sixth prince. After the sixth prince failed in his bid for the throne and was imprisoned in the abandoned alley, my father ordered me to release Gong Chiyue. This wasn't unusual. In that life, my enmity toward her wasn't yet so deep. But my father shouldn't have arranged for Gong Chiyue to seduce the ninth prince after I released her, claiming it would emulate the loyalty of Empresses Huang and Nuying to preserve the Grand Tutor's mansion's wealth and prestige. The ninth prince, indifferent to beauty, not only humiliated Gong Chiyue but also mocked me viciously, declaring my family consumed by greed, their minds filled with thieves and prostitutes. The already thin thread of affection between us was frayed and severed through such repeated betrayals. Later, my father's reckless crimes led to my being stripped of my title 3 times and reinstated 3 times. Yet my father only pleaded for my help, never considering whether my own circumstances would allow me to save him. Gong Chiyue returned. Father's fury finally subsided. He kindly instructed Gong Chiyue to prioritize the Empress Dowager above all else at the Buddhist temple, assuring her that serving her well would be a great merit. Gong Chiyue obediently agreed. Claiming fatigue, father compassionately dismissed her to rest. Turning to me, he impatiently ordered me to copy sutras. On the way to the Buddhist hall, Gong Chiyue waited for me. Sister, it is I who now stands beside the Empress Dowager. What are your thoughts on this? I also told the sixth prince that the reason for breaking off our engagement was to spare you from grieving alone. I wish to share both joy and sorrow with you, sister. Are you pleased? She was certain I understood nothing, her gaze even carrying pity. I watched her shake her head and walk away, unable to suppress a smile. She was likely going for the Empress Dowager's secret. But once you know a secret, there's no need to hear it a second time, is there? As for the sixth prince, he was nothing. Every 3 years, the Empress Dowager would visit Guiyun Temple to worship the Buddha, selecting several outstanding young ladies from distinguished families to accompany her. Upon their return, each of those young ladies secured a favorable position. In my second life, Gong Chiyue stole the ninth prince, tarnishing my reputation. Naturally, I refused to accept this outcome. Anticipating the Empress Dowager's pilgrimage, I leveraged my connections through the princess to gain an audience and volunteered my services. I toiled day and night at her side for 2 years, earning her trust. At her deathbed, only I and my eldest aunt remained by her side. She confided her secret to me, and I exploited it to the utmost. Even if Gong Chiyue imitated the path I took in my past life, could she truly control where it led her? This world offers no such easy gains. On the day the Empress Dowager departed, noble ladies lined the streets to bid her farewell, each holding a paulownia blossom as a token of their farewell. After the Empress Dowager's procession had moved far away, the sixth prince lashed out with his whip, snapping the paulownia blossom from my hand. His voice was icy cold, like poisoned steel. A shameless creature like you has no right to bid farewell to the Empress Dowager. The blossom shattered on the ground. My hand was struck by the whip, swelling red and high. It hurts. My eyes reddened, brimming with tears that threatened to fall. The sixth prince frowned, his expression momentarily startled. Then, as if remembering something, he coldly declared, if not for you, Autumn Moon would never have broken off her engagement with this prince, nor would she have sought refuge in the Buddhist temple. A woman who stirs up trouble like you is truly revolting. His whip rose high once more. I turned my body away, unable to block the blow, yet my thoughts wandered elsewhere. The sixth prince truly had no resistance to Palace Choyu, he was far too easily manipulated by her. With such a valuable pawn at her disposal, she chose to discard it. She was utterly useless, always managing to ruin a perfect hand. Just as the whip was about to strike, it was seized by someone. The sixth prince roared in fury, "Who dares obstruct this prince?" I commanded the halt. The crowd parted. A figure pushed a wheelchair forward, carrying a man of refined, unadorned elegance, the first prince. Though clad in dark robes, he seemed to radiate light in my eyes. The first prince gave me a slight nod, beckoning me to his side. His piercing, black and white eyes then turned coldly toward the sixth prince. Why assault someone in public? Especially a woman? Where did you learn such manners? Don't be fooled by her, brother. She appears innocent but harbors a vicious heart. Had she not sown discord, Choyu and I would never have been torn apart. The sixth prince spoke with bitter resentment. The first prince's expression grew icy. If second Miss Gong refuses to accompany Her Imperial Majesty in worship, I shall order her return immediately. Her Imperial Majesty is merciful and would never force anyone against their will. He raised his hand, and his guards immediately obeyed. The sixth prince panicked. Wait! Brother, that wasn't my intention. Apologize. Brother. The sixth prince froze. Apologize. Apologize to the first miss of the Gong family. The first prince's tone was unyielding. Gritting his teeth, the sixth prince finally bowed his head in resignation. Gong Yaoguang, I'm sorry. I was overcome by emotion today and shouldn't have taken it out on you. Brother, can you please recall her now? Sixth prince, this servant is wronged. I lowered my head, tears falling drop by drop onto the floor. As I reached for my handkerchief, the swollen back of my hand was exposed. The jade-like skin was now splotched with red, a sight that looked quite frightening. A collective gasp escaped the crowd. The first prince frowned. He extended his hand, and a guard promptly handed him an exquisitely crafted whip. Seizing it, he lashed it down hard, directly onto the sixth prince's hand. The sixth prince cried out in shock, clutching his hand in disbelief. His furious gaze darted between me and the first prince. Excellent. Today I've seen it all, Gong Yaoguang. You truly have it in you. He turned and strode away, leaving the whip lying on the ground. I covered my mouth with the back of my hand, fearing I might laugh out loud. After a long while, the crowd dispersed. The crown prince said coldly, Gong Yaoguang, have you laughed enough? Me. I held out my hand to the crown prince and whispered softly, Your Highness, it really hurts. If only you truly knew pain. His words were cold, yet his ears flushed slightly. The crown prince was the eldest son of Empress Yuan. After her passing, he suffered a spinal injury during military training, leaving him partially paralyzed. He was destined for the path of crown prince and emperor. Now confined to a wheelchair, he became the least likely contender for the throne. Yet it was precisely this man, cast aside by all, who became the decisive figure in the capital's political storms across my two past lives. Alas, his fate was cruel. In the first life, he died young in the cold, desolately prince's mansion. In the second life, he perished in distant Ansei. In both lives, I never got to see him one last time. I always felt such a good man shouldn't have died so easily. After rebirth, I seized an opportunity to meet the eldest prince. We spoke of the past, the future, the realm, the people's plight, the struggles of women confined to their chambers, and the grand ambitions for the vast lands. My words were moving, yet he seemed to see right through me. He said, Out of the bond we've formed these past days, if you have a request, speak plainly. No need for such theatrics. What could I possibly ask for? Merely to live well, merely to accomplish something meaningful. I replied, I wish to ask your highness for a match. Would you consider it? He fell silent for an eternity before ordering me expelled from the estate. His steward bowed humbly, Miss, please do not jest with his highness. In his current state, no noble house would dare marry their daughter to him, let alone the Grand Tutor's household. His situation, I knew it well. Empress Yuan came from a military family. When she married His Majesty, then still Crown Prince, her marriage was a tremendous asset to his ascension. But once the Crown Prince became emperor, that asset turned into a crushing burden. Later, Empress Yuan passed away. Her father and brothers perished on the battlefield, and even her 16-year-old son was crippled. Everyone knew the eldest prince had long been abandoned by His Majesty. Over the years, many suitors were proposed for the eldest prince, but none were suitable. The legitimate daughters of noble families refused to come, while the daughters of lesser households were deemed unworthy of his status. His Majesty left the matter unattended. With no other elders to decide for him, his marriage remained in limbo. In my previous 2 lives, he died without ever taking a wife. In this life, my father remains the same man, obsessed with favoring his concubine-born sister and driven by greed. He won't pass up any chance to climb closer to imperial power. I don't want to marry the 6th prince, nor the 9th prince. The crown prince, however, is an excellent choice. Besides, he is the most restrained, composed, gentle, and courteous person I've ever met. If marrying royalty is the only way to reach high status, why not wed the most pure and admirable among them? I had the steward deliver a message to the first prince. Yao Guang is not joking. If your highness is willing to wait, you will witness that day. I only hope that when my reputation is ruined and I am reviled by all, your highness will still remember Gong Yao Guang, who today volunteered to be your wife. Later, His Majesty arranged my marriage to the sixth prince. I knew what I tried to avoid would inevitably catch up. Perhaps I was destined to compete with Gong Chiyue for men. First the sixth prince, then the ninth prince. I consciously sped up the process, hoping everything would end sooner. Hoping my life could return to normal, reach the heights I desired, and take me to the distant places I longed for. The day before the Empress Dowager's Buddhist rites, I sent Liu Cui to the first prince's residence with a message. Yao Guang's reputation has fallen so low. Does your highness still remember the Gong Yao Guang who once sought marriage from you? I thought I'd have to wait a long time, but unexpectedly, he came today, and publicly demanded the sixth prince apologize to me. I lowered my gaze to hide the smile in my eyes. Your highness, are you concerned for me? He called it insolence, yet his ears flushed crimson. After Gong Chiyue's departure, the capital seemed to settle into quietude. Even father grew weary of scolding me, instead seeking a marital match for me. Though my reputation was tarnished by 2 broken engagements, I remained a legitimate daughter, still of some use. He continued searching among the imperial relatives, intending to marry me off to a provincial prince or heir from afar. After all, the winds of the capital couldn't reach those distant lands, any gossip would be swallowed by mountains and seas. As long as the suitor was noble, his character or appearance mattered little. This made the search much easier. One day, father spoke to me earnestly, announcing he'd secured a favorable match with the Prince of Anling's household. He hoped I would quickly bear children there and secure my position as the principal wife. I lowered my gaze, my voice cold and detached. I hear the Prince of Anling is about your age, with over a dozen grown sons. You want me to become his secondary wife, a stepmother to a brood older than myself? Have you no regard for your reputation? Humph. You are the one who has sullied the Grand Tutor's name. This is the best match I could secure for you. You have no right to question it. Father slammed down his teacup, his anger palpable. I lifted my gaze to meet his. In his youth, he had been strikingly handsome, a true phoenix among men. I'd heard that during the Imperial Palace examination, the late emperor had agonized over whether to crown him top scholar or settle for third place. In the end, his reverence for talent prevailed, and he was bestowed the title of top scholar. He once diligently sought to advocate for the people, once held the world as a public trust, and once selected talent for the court. But at some point, everything changed. I only remember the past 2 lifetimes, when he stirred up trouble in the court, plundered the people's wealth, and dragged me through the ups and downs of the harem like a stray dog. Later, when I took control of the court and initiated reforms, the greatest resistance came from him. So I made him the first to fall. In this new life, how he treats me matters little. Yet occasionally, I recall childhood, how he'd cradle me, calling me Goody. So much so that when I became Empress Dowager, I kept a pure white pug named Goody too. Father actively liaised with the Anling prince's household. Marriage talks would likely begin soon. Liu Cui was so anxious she began to cry. Young lady, why must your life be so bitter? Bitter? Not really. Having lived 3 lifetimes, I possess a kind of longevity. Compared to many, I've gained more than my share. Liu Cui gritted her teeth. Young lady, what if the first prince doesn't come to propose? I paused. If he doesn't come, it means I can't enter the game in the capital. Then I'll just have to marry the Prince of Anling. I hear his household is very wealthy. It should help buy more provisions when we rebel. Stop thinking about it. Just embroider a few more handkerchiefs. They'll either be used to wipe tears or sweat. Either way, they'll come in handy. Lu Chui sighed deeply, resigned to her fate, and obediently returned to embroidering handkerchiefs. How dutiful. That evening, father summoned me, announcing my marriage had been arranged and instructing me to prepare for the wedding. I asked, is it Prince Anling or the Crown Prince? His expression darkened. Yet I knew the answer. So it is the Crown Prince. Suddenly enraged, he struck my face with a backhand. You are indeed cunning, flattering and seducing the first prince. Did you deliberately ruin your engagements to the sixth and ninth princes? How could you willingly degrade yourself like this? His hand swung for another blow, but I seized his wrist. Lifting my gaze, I stared at him coldly. Father, choose your words carefully. However unworthy the crown prince may be, he remains His Majesty's legitimate son. How is marrying him degrading? Wicked child! How dare you speak to me thus? Do you no longer regard me as your father? Did you not long ago disown me as your daughter? As for how my betrothal was ruined, do you truly not know, father? He pressed his lips tightly together, saying nothing. I flung his hand away, feeling only weariness. He knew. He was merely pretending ignorance. In my first life, when I killed him, I asked why he'd become a different man the moment Mother died. His hair was drenched in blood, his body battered, yet his gaze burned with venom. You cursed your mother to death, made me a widower. Every time I think of how we could have shared a lifetime of marital bliss, it's all because of you that we're now separated by life and death. I hate you so much I could. The curses that followed, I vaguely didn't hear. I only thought, so that's it. That's why he hates me. That year, a Taoist priest passed by our door. Mother, curious, invited him in to read our fortunes. I'd once seen him harassing women while playing on the street, so I bluntly declared he was no good. Perhaps that's why he took such a dislike to me. He predicted good fortune for the entire family, especially proclaiming Gong Chiyue had the unparalleled destiny of a phoenix. But when it came to me, his expression turned grave. Only after my mother's repeated pleas did he finally say, with deep concern, that I was born with a calamitous aura, destined to bring misfortune to my father, mother, husband, and children. Mother scolded him sharply. I argued with the man, saying I didn't wish to offend anyone important, but truly couldn't bear to see such a good family destroyed because of me. What happened after that, I don't remember. I only recall Mother frowning and calling the fortune teller unlucky, saying she didn't believe his words. Until later, when she died in childbirth, taking both her own life and the baby's. And Father's gaze toward me grew increasingly strange. He doted on the concubine, doted on Gong Chiyue, yet treated me, this motherless orphan, with cold indifference. But I was born with a rebellious streak. The more others tried to crush me into dust, the more I vowed to bloom into a fragrant flower in that very soil, blooming boldly, blooming freely. After I severed ties with my father, he turned completely against me, confining me within the manor. But I wouldn't listen to him. I scaled the wall and escaped. Today, the mule and horse market had a herd of horses brought by the Hu people. I picked out a tall, sturdy steed. Just as I was about to pay, someone interjected, "I'll take this horse." It was the ninth prince. I thrust the silver pouch into the merchant's hands and reached out to lead the horse. The ninth prince wouldn't yield, grabbing for the reins in a struggle. I mounted first, looking down on him from above. Then let's race. If your highness wins, I'll give you this horse. Dare you? Presumptuous. I'll make you lose so thoroughly you'll admit defeat. He mounted too. We chased each other out of the city, beginning our race across the open grasslands. The wind howled, as if tugging at my very soul. I felt an indescribable exhilaration. I owed thanks to Gong Chiyue for granting me rebirth, restoring this youthful body, and preserving everything I hadn't yet lost. This time, I was determined to seize more. The ninth prince and I were neck and neck. He charged forward relentlessly, and I matched his pace without faltering. But soon, the path ahead ended abruptly. A chasm yawned ahead, a gaping maw that seemed to devour all living things. With reckless courage, I pulled the reins, launching my steed into the air. Behind me, the ninth prince's furious roar echoed, "Gong Yaoguang. Have you lost your mind?" Yes. I was mad. Would you dare challenge a madwoman? After landing, I charged straight ahead like a streak of light. After a long while, the horse stopped. I dismounted and lay on the grass, letting it graze leisurely. Much later, the ninth prince arrived. He circled me on horseback, his voice gritted, "Have you no regard for your life?" I opened my eyes and smiled faintly. "Your Highness, I cannot return your horse." I have no use for your horse. Wait and see, my white cloud treading black will always defeat you. The next day. True to his word, he rode white cloud treading black to challenge me. This time, I lost. I raised my dagger to stab my own horse. The ninth prince seized my wrist, roaring, "Are you mad?" I refused to accept defeat. You fool! Winning and losing are trivial matters. But for me, losing means death. I switched the dagger to my other hand and thrust it toward my own throat. As he lost focus to grab my other arm, I sidestepped, twisted my arm, and slashed at the horse's neck. Blood gushed forth, splattering both of us from head to face. The horse collapsed, tears in its eyes. Amidst the blood, the ninth prince shook my shoulders in fury. Gong Yao Guang, you're fucking insane. In the bloodstains, I smiled. Yes. I am insane. I couldn't quite understand why father loved Gong Chiyue, why the sixth prince loved Gong Chiyue, and why even the ninth prince was drawn to her. I couldn't compete with her, but I was determined to make her life miserable. That day, the ninth prince glanced between the horse and me, raising his dagger to strike me several times, only to stomp his foot in rage each time. Finally, he tossed the dagger aside, declaring he'd spare my worthless life for now, then fled in a panic. I stared at his retreating back, a faint smile curving my lips. See, Gong Chiyue? You're copying me, and I'm copying you. And this time, it seems I've won. After a long, long time, a handkerchief fell onto my face. I lifted it to reveal the slender face of the first prince. You've had your fun. As long as it served its purpose. He frowned, his lips twitching, yet ultimately said nothing. After a long while, as I wiped my face clean, his gaze fell upon the horse. Though silent, his regret was unmistakable. I replied calmly, I never gave it a name. What? Without a name, it's just livestock. Kill it, and there's no attachment. The crown prince pondered for a moment, then smiled. You can call me Ning Xiao, Ning for peace, Xiao for carefree. I was surprised he mentioned names. He continued smiling. May I call you Yao? Yao. I-O. Mother once called me that. That was so long ago, so very long ago, it was almost a blur. Suddenly, I wondered why Gong Chiyue hadn't let us return to childhood. If we could go back then, I might have a chance to see Mother again, a chance to change her fate. But then I thought, perhaps she feared I might take advantage of her youth and kill her. I said indifferently, it's just a name, Your Highness. Call me whatever you like. Ning Zhao's icy gaze shifted to me. I intended to wait until the turmoil subsided before seeking your father's permission to marry you. I hadn't anticipated his such haste. Sooner or later, Your Highness would have come. Yao Guang has no complaints. You do, he asserted firmly. I didn't wish to argue. I rose and left. After walking for a long while, I saw his wheelchair still there. In that moment, I felt a flicker of pity for him. How could he love someone like this? If one day he truly fell for someone, and his beloved left, he wouldn't even be able to chase after her. How pitiful! Shaking my head, I pushed him from my mind. I went to Qinlu. I asked the madam there to select a few girls for me. She replied that she had found them, and today I came to inspect the goods. When I saw those 4 girls, each with her own charm and grace, I nodded in satisfaction. I handed the madam 10,000 taels in silver notes, pointing to the most captivating one among them. I take this girl. She will be your top courtesan. This girl. After settling the 4, I led the girl named Chen Xiao out the door. Not long after, Chen Xiao, dressed in mourning robes and selling herself to bury her father, was harassed by ruffians. In this moment of peril, she encountered the 6th prince, who was selecting hairpins for Gong Chiyue. The 6th prince saw a face strikingly similar to Gong Chiyue's and was momentarily stunned. He generously dealt with the thugs for Chen Xiao, arranged her father's burial, and found her a place to stay. In the small courtyard, Chen Xiao undid her silk robes, saying she sought no formal recognition, only to repay her benefactor. The 6th prince fled in panic. Several more days passed. A renowned courtesan named Floating Fragrance emerged from Qin Tower. Someone penned verses for her, cold moon soaks the sash, floating fragrance sought in shadows. Instantly, her fame spread far and wide. Countless refined gentlemen flocked to the brothel, vying to claim her maiden touch. The sixth prince, captivated by the poem, disguised himself and visited Qin Lu. He marveled at how perfectly the maiden matched the verse. Unbeknownst to him, this was the very poem he had written for floating fragrance in his past life. Later, he purchased Fu Xiang. Later still, he encountered a shopkeeper's cook and a virtuous maiden, both bore an uncanny resemblance to Gong Chuyue. The sixth prince found it too coincidental. It seemed as though overnight, Gong Chuyue's face was everywhere. He ordered an investigation, yet found nothing. He could only convince himself that perhaps Gong Chuyue wasn't truly so unique after all. Later still, he drank himself into a stupor at the cook's small shop and awoke in Fu Xiang's embrace. He was utterly lost. The ninth prince claimed I owed him a favor. Without his intervention, the origins of these women could never have been concealed. I shrugged indifferently. Without you, the first prince would have acted himself. Your Highness should thank me for eliminating a rival for Gong Chuyue. His face darkened. Why do you hate Gong Chuyue so much? You're sisters. Ha 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 ha. I couldn't help but laugh, as if hearing the most absurd joke in the world. Your Highness, what meaning do siblings hold for those of our standing? Still, I'll accept your debt this time. You fulfilled one of the 3 vows you owed me. He studied me closely, his thin lips forming a few words, you crazy woman. He seemed to say something else, but I didn't catch it. Soon, the day of my grand wedding to Ning Xiao arrived. Gong Chuyue returned the day before the ceremony. She wore mourning robes, arriving dusty and weary, looking rather bedraggled. She barged into my small courtyard without regard for her appearance, her gaze fierce enough to devour. You're back, Gong Yaoguang. And you're back too, aren't you? I turned my head, observing her impassively. Sister, you didn't accompany the Empress Dowager to worship the Buddha. You traveled thousands of miles back. Have you now become unable to let go of worldly attachments? Why did you send a fine steed to the ninth prince? Why did you send a beauty to the sixth prince? What else have you done? Her expression darkened as she demanded. I smiled, my crimson lips parting softly, because I detest you. Everything you cherish, I wish to destroy. Now, tell me, how did my mother truly die? Gong Chuyue's almond eyes widened slightly, a cold laugh escaping her. Wasn't she killed by your curse? My hands clenched unconsciously. I asked the wrong person. I should have asked your aunt. Why don't you just go to the underworld and ask for me? How about that? I took a bow from the wall, slowly drew it back, and aimed it at Gong Chuyue. Gong Chuyue looked slightly panicked. Gong Yaoguang, you've gone mad. I let out a cold laugh. The Gong Chuyue before me was actually quite ruthless. I clearly remembered in the first life, Gong Chuyue's aunt lived until I raided the Gong family estate. But in the second life, Gong Chuyue's aunt died early, supposedly killed by my curse. Now in the third life, Gong Chuyue's aunt fell into the lake on the day I was reborn, and still died. The story was that she was so enraged by me that she slipped and fell into the lake while walking quickly. This made me wonder. Why would Gong Chuyue deliberately cause the death of someone so insignificant? Unless that person was significant. Looking back at her life, the only time she truly shone was when she competed with my mother for a husband. I have reason to suspect she was involved in my mother's death. Gong Chuyue's current reaction confirms my suspicions. I am now certain my mother was not killed by my ill fortune, but murdered. Gong Chuyue retreated step by step. My arrow flew out, landing behind her, blocking her path. Tears streamed down her face. Sister, what have I ever done to deserve this? Why do you seek to kill me? Wicked creature! If you wish to kill, then kill me. Father entered, his imposing presence blocking Gong Chuyue. He fixed me with a gaze unmasking the venom in his eyes. I whispered softly, Father, her concubine killed my mother. Do you still intend to shield this criminal? The guilty party is clearly you. Don't presume to act with impunity in this household just because you're betrothed to the crown prince. If I disapprove, you won't marry him regardless. Now put down that bow and go kneel in the ancestral hall to reflect on your actions. This prince shall see who dares lay a finger on this prince's consort." The squeaking of Ning Zhao's wheelchair sounded particularly jarring. His cold eyes fixed on me. After nodding to me, he turned to father. Father awkwardly apologized, but Ning Zhao offered no response. Gong Chiyue and I locked cold stares. After a long moment, father led Gong Chiyue away. Before leaving, she asked me bitterly, "Sister, are you truly going to marry the crown prince? You once said he was crippled and beneath you. Did he force you? If he did, I'll risk my life to stop you from marrying into the crown prince's household." My devoted little sister, once again putting on a show of sisterly devotion. I snapped, "Get out." Ning Zhao declared, "She cannot leave." As father breathed a slight sigh of relief, Ning Zhao spoke coolly, 50 lashes across the face, "Then you may leave." Father panicked. "Your Highness, I beg your forgiveness. For the sake of this old servant, please spare Qiuyu. She only worries for her sister and speaks her mind too freely. If your Highness spares her, I will persuade His Majesty to attend your wedding banquet tomorrow." A mocking smile flickered across Ning Zhao's icy face. No need for the Grand Tutor's trouble. Let fate decide. Gong Qiuyu endured 50 lashes, her lips torn raw. When she rolled out of my courtyard sobbing, father completely lost it. "First Prince, you're abusing your power. I'll report you to the Emperor. The Grand Tutor may do as he pleases." Father stormed off in fury. The dust settled. I looked at Ning Zhao. "What brings you here?" He slowly drew a hairpin from his robe. "To give you this." It was a phoenix hairpin, radiant with flowing light. Within its dazzling golden glow, 5 colored gems sparkled brilliantly. In my previous 2 lives, I had received the same hairpin on my wedding day. Never did I imagine that in this life, he would present it to me personally. I reached out to take it, naturally pinning it to my hair. Ning Zhao watched the shimmering hair ornament with intense focus, his voice tinged with unease. "This was my mother's keepsake. It looks beautiful on you. It's too precious. I cannot accept it. It was meant for my future daughter-in-law. Unless you no longer wish to marry me." My heart seemed to stop. If this was meant for his wife, why had he given it to me in the previous 2 lifetimes? The wedding day. Father did not come. His Majesty did not come either, but his imperial edict arrived. The edict rebuked Ning Zhao for his discourtesy, instructing us to reflect privately in our residence after the wedding, without entering the palace. Amidst the mocking whispers and sighs of the crowd, we were married. He struggled to roll his wheelchair, gripping the red silk ribbon. I stepped forward to push him. He refused. "This, I must do myself." I released my grip and followed behind him, straightening the red ribbon. For the matchmaker had said, a straight red ribbon brings smooth sailing in all matters. I knew it was mere auspicious talk, yet this marriage was hard-won through my own struggles. Still, I hoped for smooth paths ahead, that I might soon fulfill my lifelong wish. On our wedding night, Ning Zhao followed every traditional ritual without omission. Yet when we reached the bridal chamber, he slipped away, his melancholy tinged with awkwardness. "Rest alone tonight. Ning Zhao." I stood up and called out involuntarily. Though I managed to stop him, I found myself at a loss for words. I knew full well he was partially paralyzed, incapable of doing anything. Was I putting him in an awkward position? I changed the subject. "If you trust me, there's something I want to tell you." "What is it?" I walked over and leaned close, whispering softly into his ear. My warm breath tickled his ear, making his earlobes twitch and flush red. In that moment, my hand felt restless, tempted to pinch them. He nodded, perfectly evading my touch. Though my heart felt a pang of regret, my voice remained calm. "What do you plan to do?" "I'll have someone watch her. Rest assured." Spring gave way to autumn. The days grew colder by the hour. Ning Zhao and I arrived at Guiyun Temple. But the temple was in turmoil. The Empress Dowager, usually robust, had caught a chill and was bedridden. Gong Chiyue sent word to the palace while tending to the Dowager with her eldest aunt, attending to her every need. Amidst the commotion, the Crown Prince and I arrived at Guiyun Temple. The attending physician promptly took the Empress Dowager's pulse, stabilizing her condition. Our party naturally stayed on. Autumn leaves fell one by one. Gong Chuyue unexpectedly whispered softly in my ear, "I never imagined you'd actually marry the crown prince. What do you stand to gain? He's a deadbeat, what's there for you to scheme over?" The words deadbeat struck a nerve. For some reason, my heart ached in that moment. Without hesitation, I struck Gong Chuyue across the face. She stared at me in disbelief, her eyes brimming with tears, and quickly knelt on the ground. "Sister, what have I done to offend you? I'll change whatever you say, just please don't be angry. Your hand must hurt." Turning around, I saw the Empress Dowager, who had recovered enough to take a stroll, and beside her, the eldest prince, as still as a well. The Empress Dowager's face darkened. "Shower, is this the princess you begged me to marry you to?" "Humph. Nonsense. Guiyun Temple is no place for her arrogance. You two leave the mountain. You are forbidden from coming here again." The Empress Dowager stormed off in anger. A flash of mockery flickered in Gong Chuyue's eyes. As she rose, she whispered softly in my ear, "Sister, hurry down the mountain. No one can stop me now." She departed triumphantly. My heart sank slightly. The Empress Dowager's illness had come too soon. Gong Chuyue likely didn't want to wait until the Empress Dowager's deathbed, like I had, to uncover the secret. She wanted to know sooner. That was why the Empress Dowager had fallen ill after only half a year on the mountain. Ning Xiao and I departed Guanyun Temple. Meanwhile, a great upheaval had seized the capital. His Majesty suffered a sudden attack of wind-induced illness today, complaining incessantly of headaches. The imperial physicians were at a loss, and a decree had been issued seeking renowned doctors from across the land. A reward of 10,000 taels of gold was promised to anyone who could cure His Majesty. Upon this news spreading, the capital was soon swarming with the most celebrated physicians. The 9th and 6th princes scrambled to recruit physicians for the palace, each vying to claim the credit before His Majesty. After our return to the capital, Ning Xiao submitted multiple requests to enter the palace, all of which were denied. Having exhausted his efforts, Ning Xiao ceased pursuing the matter. Yet another message emerged from the palace. His Majesty's headaches had intensified, and only the blood of his legitimate son could cure him. Hearing this, I froze. Because in my previous 2 lives, this plot never unfolded. The emperor did indeed suffer from headaches, but they began only after the Empress Dowager's death, not now. Something had changed. Ning Xiao and I entered the palace. Each day, the eunuch would cut Ning Xiao's wrist to draw a small bowl of blood for the emperor to drink. Ning Xiao's face grew increasingly pale. He began to drift in and out of consciousness, spending more and more hours lying in bed. Every day, I could only try to get him to eat and drink more, hoping to replenish his vital energy and blood. Before long, the emperor summoned Ning Xiao to an audience. He appeared vigorous and alert, looking much better than before. Compared to Ning Xiao, the two were worlds apart. He praised Ning Xiao for his loyalty, filial piety, integrity, and righteousness, personally conferring upon him the title of Prince of Loyalty and Righteousness. This, too, differed from my past life. In my previous existence, he had named Ning Xiao the Prince of Cruelty. Cruelty meant slaughtering the innocent, cruelty meant brutalizing even one's own kin, cruelty meant aiding evil and defying righteousness. Li was the most infamous title in recorded history. In both previous lifetimes, Ning Xiao had borne this name upon his death. This lifetime, because of Ning Xiao's blood, the emperor had changed. He had actually altered the title. The imperial scribe drafted the edict. Upon receiving it, Ning Xiao's lips curved into a smile. "Thank you, father. Henceforth, you may rest peacefully within the palace walls." Before Ning Xiao could respond, sudden clamor erupted outside the palace walls, shouts of battle and chaos. His Majesty startled. "What is that noise?" "Protect the emperor!" Ning Xiao instantly shielded the emperor. Peering outward, I saw countless soldiers clashing at the gates, palace maids and eunuchs fleeing in all directions. A young eunuch scrambled inside, his face pale with terror. "Your Majesty, it's terrible. The 6th and 9th princes have rebelled outside. The imperial guards are fighting desperately to protect you." "Wicked beasts! How dare they act thus while I still reign? The emperor refused to believe it. He walked to the doorway and saw the uniforms of the 6th and 9th prince's personal guards. His body swayed unsteadily, his face frantic, radiating a bewilderment that refused to comprehend. How could this happen? I treated them well. With a pft, he spat blood and collapsed. When His Majesty awoke again, the chaos within the palace had been quelled. Ning Xiao sat quietly by his bedside. As the emperor regained consciousness, a flash of disgust crossed his eyes, vanishing almost instantly. He urgently asked, "What is the situation outside?" Ning Xiao's tone was calm. The evidence of the 6th and 9th princes' rebellion is irrefutable. They have been imprisoned pending trial, and their troops have been fully incorporated into the imperial forces. Why did they rebel? I must interrogate them personally. The emperor attempted to rise from his bed but collapsed back onto it, utterly drained. This time, his symptoms were more severe. His eyes glazed over, his lips twisted askew, saliva dripped from his mouth, and half his body was paralyzed. His eyes widened in terror as he stared at Ning Xiao. What has happened to me? Ning Xiao touched the wound on his own wrist and asked calmly, "Father, did you find my blood tasty?" The emperor understood instantly, his features contorting into a hideous grimace beyond his control. Wicked creature! Beast! A faint, blurred smile appeared on Ning Xiao's face. The son of a beast is naturally a beast himself. That much is true. Only a beast would kill his own wife, his wife's parents, brothers, sisters, even his own son. Compared to you, father, I still fall short. I am going now to kill my 6th and 9th brothers. Only then can I catch up to you. No. No. The emperor struggled to grab Ning Xiao's sleeve. Ning Xiao raised an eyebrow. Father wishes me to spare 6th and 9th brothers? Yes, yes. Then does father know what must be done? His gaze turned cold as he studied the emperor. A trembling eunuch presented an imperial edict before him, proclaiming Ning Xiao as crown prince. Rage erupted from the emperor's eyes. Summon the Grand Tutor! Summon the Chancellor! I stepped forward from behind and spoke softly. Father does not know, but His Highness, fearing unrest, has already replaced the city guards and placed the homes of the principal ministers under surveillance. Now, neither my father nor the Chancellor can come. Where did you get these troops? The emperor asked, panic rising in his voice. Ning Xiao slowly drew a tiger token from his robe. I owe this to your majesty. The promise you made years ago remains unbroken. Your generals still remember it, they still recognize this token. The empress hailed from the Zhao family, a lineage of military commanders. To gain the Zhao family's trust, His Majesty had personally bestowed this tiger token upon the empress, jokingly calling her his final guardian. Later, when he orchestrated the deaths of the empress and the entire Zhao clan, he cast the small token aside. Yet the generals guarding the capital had not forgotten His Majesty's command. To conceal his crime against the Zhao clan, His Majesty loudly proclaimed their loyalty to the throne, their patriotism, and their righteous sacrifice for the nation. Thus, when Ning Xiao sent men bearing the tiger token to mobilize the troops, those generals genuinely believed they were marching as a righteous army to defend the throne. In my previous 2 lives, after His Majesty fell gravely ill, I borrowed this tiger token from Ning Xiao to assist the 9th and 6th princes in ascending the throne. After reincarnating, I sought out Ning Xiao. Together, we found this tiger token among the empress's belongings. He asked how I knew of its existence. I replied calmly, bold conjecture, careful verification. After the empress's death, His Majesty, wishing to demonstrate his profound affection, had some of her manuscripts and letters published into a volume for all women of the realm to read and revere. As the Grand Tutor's son, I was fortunate enough to obtain a copy of this collection, annotated by the empress herself. Most of the volume contained interpretations of poetry. Yet when describing a verse about romantic love, the empress added with fervor, gifts exchanged between lovers are often jade pendants, hairpins, sachets, or brocade sashes, safe choices, yet unremarkable. Only his gift of a tiger token, said to command thousands of soldiers, carries a weight as heavy as 1,000 June. When she penned these words, her pride must have swelled unbearably. Alas! Little did she know this was merely a deception. After His Majesty ascended the throne, he gradually seized control of court affairs. Within a mere decade, the entire Zhao clan was annihilated, and even her beloved son nearly perished on the battlefield. Armed with this line, I uncovered other clues, piecing together the truth bit by bit, and eventually tracked down this tiger token. Gong Chiyue always thought I was just lucky. She didn't know the relentless effort and calculated steps I took behind the scenes. His Majesty's body, propped up with great effort, collapsed once more. A single tear slid slowly from the corner of his eye. His lips moved indistinctly, uttering the words traitor. The young eunuch, trembling with fear, stepped forward to grasp His Majesty's hand. With trembling fingers, he pressed it onto the seal paste, stamping His Majesty's seal onto one imperial edict after another. One of these edicts declared the 6th prince and 9th prince to be stripped of their titles and demoted to commoners. The Great Chu dynasty had changed. The following day in the imperial court, Ning Xiao was proclaimed crown prince. His Majesty, gravely ill, entrusted the crown prince with the regency. Ning Xiao's first decree was to strip the 6th and 9th princes of their titles. This move sparked fierce opposition among the ministers. Some argued that the princes had protested their innocence in prison, claiming they had come to rescue the emperor by imperial decree and had never rebelled. Ning Xiao asked calmly, "By whose decree?" "The Empress Dowager." "Are you suggesting Her Imperial Majesty sought to rebel against His Majesty?" The minister fell silent. Though not biological mother and son, the Empress Dowager and the Emperor had long been celebrated for their filial devotion. Moreover, advanced in years and devoted to Buddhist practices, what purpose would rebellion serve her? And for what reason? No one could provide a satisfactory answer. The imperial decree was smoothly issued. The 6th prince and 9th prince were stripped of their titles and imprisoned within the abandoned garden. After entering the garden, the two cried out their innocence day and night. The steward overseeing the garden reported that their constant disturbance might tarnish the crown prince's reputation. I went to see them, seeking a way to silence them. Prince Lu now appeared filthy and disheveled. His sight of me ignited his rage anew, fueled by shame at his own squalor. Gong Yao Guang. So you were the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. You falsely claimed the Empress Dowager issued an edict about turmoil in the Forbidden Palace, deliberately luring us to the palace to defend the throne, only to capture us in the end. Is that it? Since ancient times, there have been established protocols. A prince may only have 300 personal guards. Yet when Your Highness came to the rescue, you brought 5,000 elite troops. May I ask, Your Highness, did you conjure those extra 4,700 guards out of thin air? The 6th prince glared with wide eyes, too furious to speak further. Gong Chiyue had not been idle during this period. Leveraging knowledge from her past life, she had the 6th prince lead troops to suppress bandits across the land. Yet, once subdued, these bandits were all transformed into the 6th prince's private army. She believed her schemes were flawless, unaware that a fabricated rebellion would soon expose the 6th prince. By comparison, the 9th prince proved more astute. He borrowed personal guards from imperial relatives within the city, assembling a 2,000-strong force to come to the emperor's aid. At the time, the 6th prince had dismissed him, confident that once he seized the imperial city and secured control over His Majesty, eliminating the 9th prince would be a mere afterthought. Now, however, it was he who looked like a laughingstock. I signaled for someone to force a bowl of silence potion down the 6th prince's throat. He struggled violently, spilling the potion over his robe in a pitiful display. Once drained, he collapsed to the floor, limp as a sack of rotten mud. I turned my gaze to the 9th prince. He too had grown thin. The once rebellious gleam in his eyes had dimmed. He's the one crying foul, not me. I won't drink the silencing potion. I swear I'll behave myself from now on and never utter another word. That won't do, Your Highness. Only a few of the Emperor's sons have lived to adulthood. The Crown Prince is already crippled and criticized by all. Only if you two are crippled will the ministers have no choice but to support the Crown Prince wholeheartedly. Only then can I properly fulfill my role as Empress. If you only wish to be Empress, why not come to me? At the very least, I am strong and healthy, and deeply favored by the Emperor. The 9th Prince's eyes burned with ambition. I smiled and shook my head. I did choose. Alas, the outcome was not what I desired. This time, I will set things right and correct every wrong. It's unnecessary. I find His Highness the Crown Prince quite suitable, 1,000 times better than you. I raised my hand, and he was immediately pinned down and forced to swallow a silencing potion. His bloodshot eyes glared at me viciously. Before silence claimed him entirely, he spat out in fury, "If you're so heartless toward me, why torment my heart? Do you know what I endured for you? Ha! Ah!" He choked on his own words, his voice already failing him. What he meant to say next, I didn't know. Nor did I care to know. Gong Chuyue gave him stimulation, so he delighted in Gong Chuyue. I gave him stimulation, so he delighted in me. Ultimately, he was a heartless, faithless man. For his own sensory pleasures, he could casually abandon his promises. Such a person was not worth my lingering. Guiyun Temple was consumed by a great fire. The Empress Dowager was forced to return to the capital early, accompanied by Gong Chuyue, the arsonist. Confined in a prison carriage, she looked utterly wretched. Along the way, thousands hurled insults at her, calling her viciously treacherous, accusing her of setting the temple ablaze to avoid serving the Empress Dowager. I visited her in prison. She stared at me in terror, bewildered. Why? Why did you win again? I refused to accept this. I tried so hard, why did it end like this? I dismissed the attendants and whispered, "Sister, how does it feel to lose 3 times in a row?" Her eyes widened in disbelief. You reincarnated? You really did. Gong Yaoguang, you deceived me so cruelly. You did this on purpose. You deliberately seduced the 9th prince and the 6th prince, forcing me into chaos. Otherwise, I wouldn't have rushed to escape Guiyun Temple, nor would I have harmed the Empress Dowager. It's all because of you, you bitch. I smiled. Your fate ends here, but my journey has only just begun. You'll witness my triumph and glory, revered by all, while you become a pile of mud, trampled by the masses. No, it's not. I should be the Empress Dowager. It should have been me. You stole my phoenix destiny. You liar, thief, bitch. Her curses were vile. I couldn't care less. The more bitter and enraged she became, the more it proved I'd struck her deepest wound. Stepping out of the cell, sunlight dazzled my eyes. Ning Xiao came to fetch me. In the carriage, he remained silent, staring out the window. I felt little urge to speak either. My mind kept replaying Palace Choyu's face as she collapsed. I'd witnessed this scene 3 lifetimes over, yet never had it felt so utterly satisfying. Because this was my swiftest victory yet, no desperate struggles, no repeated setbacks. She'd merely visited Guiyun Temple to worship the Buddha, and upon her return, everything was settled. I was the rightful crown princess, while she had fallen to become a prisoner. Wonderful! I couldn't help but curve my lips upward. Ning Xiao murmured softly, "What are you thinking about that makes you smile so happily?" "I'm thinking about Gong Chuyue. She's so ridiculous, actually attempting arson." I shook my head lightly. Ning Xiao smiled too. Yes, she was reborn, yet she still hasn't grown any wiser. No wonder she was defeated by you. Yao, tell me, what is rebirth? I opened my eyes, meeting Ning Xiao's earnest gaze. He was genuinely seeking my guidance. I couldn't fathom his true intentions. Your Highness heard everything? What will you do with me? Will you kill me? I spoke of death, yet rose to lightly brush a kiss against his lips. Ning Xiao flushed crimson. He said, "You're being ridiculous." I suppose I'm the type to push my luck. I couldn't pinpoint when it started, but I became certain Ning Xiao wouldn't kill me. Perhaps it was when I received his phoenix hairpin in all 3 lifetimes, or when I persuaded him to give me the tiger token in each. Or maybe it was the moment he began appearing by my side like a ghost. I knew then he held a place for me in his heart. He had me in his heart, the whole of me. So I grew bold, testing his limits step by step, seeing how far he would go for me. Now, even a secret like rebirth, he accepted with calm acceptance. He asked about my life before rebirth. I told him everything, without holding back. He listened, his brows slightly furrowed. You say I lent you the tiger token in both my previous lives? Why? In the first life, when your illness flared and you had nowhere to turn, I was cornered by Gong Chiyue and had no choice but to take a desperate gamble. I kidnapped the imperial physician for you and seized the medicine. Grateful for my help, you lent me the tiger token. In the second life, I served by the Empress Dowager's side for 3 years until her passing. Later, His Majesty passed away and passed the throne to the 9th prince. The 6th prince rebelled, and the two sides were evenly matched. I falsely claimed to have received an edict from the Empress Dowager and asked to borrow the tiger seal from you. You lent it to me. I see. He furrowed his brow in thought, then smiled. In the first life, I acted out of gratitude. In the second, I heeded the Empress Dowager's words. You truly knew how to manipulate me, Yao. How did you become so formidable? In that moment, my heart seemed to float. I'd expected him to scold me, after all, I'd schemed against him in every life. Yet he called me formidable. He was utterly unreasonable. We talked at length. For the first time, I spoke freely about the past. Only I and Gong Chiyue knew these things, but she was never a good confidant. These secrets weighed heavy in my heart, impossible to voice. But Ning Xiao was different. He accepted these supernatural tales, constantly asking, then what? What happened next? How did it unfold? I couldn't help but share more details. And so, he learned. In his first life, he died at 27. In his second, he perished in Onsai at 26. Now, he was already 24. So I died that young. For a moment, words stuck in my throat. I truly didn't know how to respond. We shared a secret now, and I found myself feeling even more pity for him. I whispered softly, before, you weren't the crown prince. You had no imperial physicians to tend to your health, so you passed away young. Now it's different. You can take good care of yourself. Every physician in the realm is at your command. He looked at me deeply and smiled faintly. Is that so? Is that so? Of course not. We were both telling lies. His Majesty needed to drink his blood to heal himself. We played along with his scheme. Each day, he ingested a slow-acting poison. Once it entered his bloodstream, the Emperor would indirectly consume it by drinking his blood, hence the swift stroke that left him bedridden. Though he later took an antidote, the damage to his vital essence was irreversible. I assured him, of course. I'll find the finest physicians in the realm to restore your health. He chuckled softly. Yao, you look so amusing when you lie. Tell me more lies, I love hearing them. Me. That rare flicker of sincerity in me vanished under his laughter. Ugh, just shut up already. The Empress Dowager summoned me to her chambers. After enduring illness and the arson attack, her health had deteriorated further. She sat weakly on the bed, her pale lips parched, the decay within her body impossible to conceal. My eldest aunt was tucking the quilt around her. After a moment's thought, I approached with ease, poured her tea, placed the spittoon to her right, then sat at her feet to massage her legs. My touch was neither too light nor too heavy. She let out a soft sigh of comfort, then caught herself, her eyes dark and opaque. My eldest aunt looked surprised and smiled, the crown princess is thoughtful. I smiled without speaking. The Empress Dowager lowered her eyes, enjoying the moment. After a long while, she spoke slowly, you deceived me. You told me you bore Zhao's child, so I granted you the imperial decree. Yet now, after all this time, where is the child? Indeed, I had deceived the Empress Dowager. Gong Chiyue followed the Empress Dowager to Guiyun Temple, believing victory was assured. Little did she know, every move she made was under Ning Xiao's surveillance. While she was drugging the Empress Dowager, Ning Xiao and I made our way to Guiyun Temple under false pretenses. I deceived the Empress Dowager with a false pregnancy to obtain an imperial decree. It was this very decree that summoned the 6th and 9th princes to the palace to defend the throne. Ning Xiao and I then seized them on charges of rebellion. When Gong Chiyue believed she had successfully framed me before the Empress Dowager, she didn't realize it was merely a play staged by the Empress Dowager and me, all to descend the mountain openly and avoid suspicion. And Gong Chiyue was still gloating over it, so adorably foolish. I whispered softly, "Your Majesty, I am still a virgin. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince will likely never have children." The Empress Dowager slowly opened her eyes, shock filling her gaze. After a long moment, she murmured, "What a calamity! The great Chu dynasty is doomed. Empress Dowager, it will not perish. Talented individuals emerge in every generation, the empire will choose its own enlightened ruler." Her face darkened, her eyes sharp with caution. "I shall keep a watchful eye on you. Your Majesty, the living cannot be controlled, only the dead. I cannot control you, but my granddaughter can. What exactly do you intend to do? Please grant me a divorce from His Highness, take me as your granddaughter, and declare my status as a legitimate member of the imperial family." "You're mad." "Your Majesty, I am not mad. My mind is clearer than it has ever been. You're dreaming. I will never help you." I leaned close and whispered a few words in her ear. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she pressed for answers, and I responded to each question. After a long, long time, she gestured for me to leave, her mind adrift. Before I departed, I murmured softly, "Empress Dowager, both you and the Empress once harbored dreams. Alas, your wings were clipped within the palace walls. Now, I too have a dream. I implore you to grant me this favor." I walked with my head bowed along the palace path lined with ginkgo trees, my thoughts already soaring through 3 lifetimes. Counting from its founding emperor, the Great Chu dynasty had reached its 3rd generation of rulers, emperors who were, frankly, rather mediocre. Yet their taste in selecting empresses was remarkably good. Both the Empress Dowager and the Empress hailed from the Zhao family. The Empress Dowager had once been a heroic woman, charging across battlefields with a crimson-plumed spear that radiated fierce martial prowess. After entering the palace, she tempered her spirit and became a virtuous empress. Yet within her chambers, that crimson-plumed spear remained meticulously polished, untouched for decades. Her life in the harem brought little joy. She bore the supreme emperor only one daughter. Later, she adopted the emperor born to a palace maid and aided him in ascending the throne. The emperor was dutiful to her but held no true respect, otherwise, he wouldn't have acted so decisively when eliminating the Zhao clan. The Empress Dowager's actions were merely revenge for her brothers, sisters, nephews, and nieces. As for the Empress, she too had once been a spirited young woman galloping across the martial world. Even as an unmarried maiden, she dared to single out a disrespectful foreign prince during a palace banquet for receiving envoys. When she dismounted the prince with a single spear thrust, she won thunderous applause from the entire hall. Before their marriages, both women had shone brightly. Yet upon entering the palace, they both sheathed their rebellious spirits, becoming exemplary wives and mothers. Alas, not every sincere heart is met with equal devotion in this world. How many genuine affections could ever fill the insatiable greed of imperial families? After the Empress and the entire Zhao clan perished, the Dowager Empress grieved bitterly. Yet all she could do was protect Ning Xiao, ensuring he grew up safely. In her second life, I was by her side when she died. She revealed a secret to me, the Shu treasure vault. When the Zhao clan invaded Shu, its king, knowing resistance futile, had secretly hidden all treasures in a single location, the Shu treasure vault. The Zhao clan brought back news of this vault. Alas, before the secret could reach the capital, General Zhao and his family perished on the battlefield. The messenger who carried the secret back sensed something amiss and dared not enter the palace to report to the emperor. Instead, he relayed the information to the Empress Dowager through intermediaries. The Empress Dowager kept this secret to herself. She had once considered revealing it to the emperor, to see his regret, guilt, and unease. Yet, after repeated tests of his reaction, she ultimately remained silent. As for Ning Xiao, she never considered telling him. She knew all too well that the crippled Ning Xiao could do nothing. Sharing this with him would only deepen his sorrow. But now she was dying. She refused to take this secret to the grave. Her only choice was to tell me, hoping I would relay it to the new ruler, to put it to good use and benefit the people of Great Chu. I obtained the secret to Shu's treasure trove, treasuring it as if it were a priceless gem. With these riches, I helped the 6th prince raise an army and march triumphantly forward. Later, I used them to improve the people's livelihood and bring blessings to all. I walked a path similar to the Empress Dowager's, becoming Empress Dowager, managing the harem, overseeing the court. I believed myself different from her, who spent her life grieving for men. I was not swayed by love. But in my final moments, reflecting on the past, I realized there was little difference. I had advanced only slightly beyond her. As regent in the Empress Dowager's stead, no matter how capable I proved, I remained an outsider, foreign to the imperial family. This time, however, I sought to enter the game openly. I needed a legitimate status, one that could never be stripped from me. Time slipped away in a flash. 3 months later, the imperial physician declared His Majesty gravely ill, too weak to govern, requiring only careful recuperation. Crown Prince Ning Xiao ascended the throne as emperor, establishing the Xingyuan era. In the first year of Xingyuan, ministers petitioned to crown the empress. Ning Xiao refused. He declared I was the long-lost daughter of the retired emperor, raised in the Grand Tutor's residence, and that my subsequent actions were to aid him in uncovering the truth behind the 6th and 9th Prince's rebellion. Now that the usurpers had been eliminated, I should reclaim my true identity and return to my ancestral home. Naturally, there were objections, but it did not matter. 3 days later, the Grand Tutor personally clarified the matter, recounting a tale. When the Empress gave birth to me, she was betrayed by treacherous individuals. Fearing for my safety within the palace, His Majesty entrusted me to the Grand Tutor's residence. All these years, the Grand Tutor's household treated me with utmost care, cherishing me like a precious jewel. This explanation was full of holes. Yet the crowd had no further words. Those who wished to refute it could find no stronger evidence. The emperor was willing to acknowledge me, the Empress Dowager raised no objection, and the Grand Tutor's household presented a consistent account. To persist in opposition now would make them appear ungrateful. Amidst swirling rumors, I gained the status of an imperial princess. Ning Xiao bestowed upon me the title of Princess Changping, guardian of the realm. Before long, citing ill health, he instructed me to read memorials from the sidelines during court sessions. The ministers protested vehemently. He responded coldly, had Princess Changping not saved me, I would now be a wandering spirit. What harm is there in favoring her? Had any of you saved me, I would favor you today. The ministers stammered, unable to speak. During the palace coup, they had all stood by watching. Now, naturally, they had no backbone left. After court, I often discussed state affairs with Ning Xiao in the imperial garden. I advised him on how to handle matters. After all, having lived 2 lifetimes, I navigated court politics with greater ease than he did. He asked if I had encountered similar situations at this time in my previous life. I recounted it in detail. He listened intently, then said, "Yao, you are truly remarkable." As he praised me, he gave a slight cough. My heart tightened with each sound. I whispered, "We've already sent messengers far and wide to find a divine physician. We will find one." He shook his head, unconcerned. Later, he brought me to court, where I listened to the proceedings beside him, occasionally asking for my advice on governance. Initially, some ministers objected, but as my governance strategies repeatedly surpassed their expectations, the dissent gradually subsided. Eventually, when I occasionally skipped court, ministers would inquire about my absence at the next session. They grew accustomed to my presence, accustomed to hearing me speak boldly on state affairs in the court. In the 2nd year of Ning Zhao's reign, the Empress Dowager passed away. In the year preceding her death, she had refused to see me. Yet on the very day she passed, she summoned me. That day, she had her eldest aunt redraw her eyebrows and eyes, then dressed in vibrant robes, appearing before me with remarkable vigor. She inquired about the affairs of the court. Seeing my responses were appropriate and without fault, the stern, tense expression that had held her face finally relaxed a little. To this day, I still do not know whether my actions were right or wrong. I hope you truly live up to your words, to plead for women, to enact laws for the people, to establish a heart for heaven and earth, and to usher in an era of great peace. If you can achieve this, then my son and I did not betray the world's trust in supporting you. If you fail, I will not rest in peace. Go now." Her expression weary, she waved me away. My eldest aunt escorted me out, yet pulled me back, instructing me to stand behind the screen while she returned inside. From the hall came her voice, "Your Majesty, you summoned the princess with so much to impart, yet spoke but a few words? This will make her feel you do not trust her. She will be displeased. I am leaving soon. Shower likely won't outlive her. There will be no one left to keep her in check. She will grow complacent and self-satisfied. I fear she may become like the late emperor, brilliant and wise in his youth, yet reckless and autocratic in his twilight years. So what if my words are harsh? If she remembers what I said today, it will be my final act of merit before I die. Cough. Cough. Your Majesty. Your Majesty, what's wrong? Empress Dowager. Someone. Quick, someone." That day, countless imperial physicians rushed about the Empress Dowager's palace, yet none could revive her withered life. Her eyes were tightly closed, her expression solemn and dignified. Ning Zhao's face was etched with profound grief. To him, she was the last person in the world who truly cared for him. I longed to comfort him, to tell him I would cherish him too. But I remained silent. I am a cold-hearted woman, ultimately valuing power and influence more. I could not, nor would I, offer him further promises. After the Empress Dowager's passing, Ning Xiao posthumously bestowed upon her numerous honorific titles, as if only through such gestures could he express his grief. 3 months later, a faint stir of life returned to the palace and its surroundings. Ning Xiao excused himself from court, citing illness, and I attended in his stead. Navigating among the ministers, my own thin veil of sorrow quickly faded. Yet Ning Xiao seemed frozen in time, trapped on the day the Empress Dowager died. His steward sought me out, pleading for me to persuade Ning Xiao, saying he had not left the Buddhist hall for a month. When I entered the hall, he sat hidden in shadow, his gloom so deep it seemed to merge with the space itself. A pain as sharp as thorns suddenly climbed up my heart. I drew back the heavy curtains, letting sunlight filter in, then knelt before the mat at his feet, resting my head on his knee. "Ning Xiao, you still have me." His slender fingers threaded through my hair. "Yes, little sister, I still have you." In that moment, something seemed to pierce me. "Yes, brother, you still have me." The bitterness in my throat was impossible to suppress. A year later, Ning Xiao proclaimed me imperial princess. This act shocked the court and the realm. They had always believed appointing me to political affairs was the limit, never expecting Ning Xiao would elevate me to imperial princess. This meant that should Ning Xiao pass away one day, I would ascend the throne as emperor. Petitions protesting this decision poured in like snowflakes from all directions. Each day, Ning Xiao would have these petitions carried to the court and burned publicly. After several such incidents, the petitions only multiplied. Perhaps knowing Ning Xiao ignored them, some petitions grew so vehement they bordered on treason. Suddenly, Ning Xiao reviewed the petitions himself. He had the most inflammatory authors imprisoned, to be held under strict guard until they repented. This move silenced the critics. Some came to counsel me, saying that having enjoyed such immense power, I should know when to advance and when to retreat, recognize the greater good, and not act like a hen crowing at dawn, attempting to disrupt the court order. Throughout history, everyone who disrupted governance met a miserable end. I couldn't be bothered to converse with such individuals. Upon learning one had a domineering wife, I simply bestowed upon her 2 beautiful courtesans as concubines, along with 2 matrons to protect them. That minister failed to attend court for 3 days. On the 4th day, he arrived at court, his sleeves raised to conceal his face, clearly afraid anyone might see the scratch marks. After court, I regarded him with a faint, mocking smile, complimenting his good fortune. "I wonder if your wives and concubines live in harmony at home? As a woman, your wife ought to know when to advance and retreat, to understand propriety. Surely she wouldn't act like a jealous harpy? If that's truly the case, how about I intervene and have her divorced for you?" The minister collapsed to his knees with a thud. "Your Highness, spare my life. I know my fault. Please forgive me. As for those 2 young ladies, I beg you to take them back. I truly know my fault." I applied the same tactics to the other ministers. Those greedy for wealth I appealed to their greed, those hungry for power I appealed to their ambition. Only one censor remained, a man of unyielding integrity. In my previous 2 lifetimes, when I ruled as Empress Dowager behind the curtain, I expended considerable effort to win his allegiance. Now, it was much the same. Though this censor was pedantic, he doted intensely on his 2 daughters. I appointed one of his daughters as my personal reader, and the other I commanded to serve as a scholar at the Imperial Academy for Women. Such honors were irresistible to ordinary men. His daughters, well versed in literature, were even less inclined to submit to others. Before long, the censor visibly wilted. The reason was simple: each day he returned home, he would grumble about my shortcomings. His daughters would inevitably step in to dissuade him, sparking heated debates among the 3 of them. Their household was often filled with acrimony. Later, the censor requested a transfer out of the capital, preferring to be posted to a remote region. His daughters, however, did not accompany him. Instead, they became my most trusted allies. Before long, my imperial princess was securely enthroned. Much later, Ning Xiao fell ill. His decline was swift and devastating. Physicians from within and outside the palace gathered in his chambers, each offering differing diagnoses. Ultimately, paralysis and poisoning had further shattered his already fragile constitution. I kept vigil by Ning Xiao's side, administering his medicine daily. His appearance grew increasingly haggard, yet his gaze grew ever more lucid. He asked me to read the memorials to him. But as he listened, he grew weary of them, flinging all the memorials onto the floor. "Yao, what use are these memorials to me now? I've been crippled all my life. Even if I ascended the throne and became the most exalted man under heaven, I'd still be powerless to do anything." Over the years we spent together, I watched him swallow countless bitter pills, so bitter they made him retch, yet he never gave up. In the dark of night, I'd seen him grasp the railings alone, trying to rise, only to fall back onto the floor in defeat. I'd watched him gaze at birds perched on the palace eaves, watching them fly, wander, and settle. His heart held mountains, rivers, and seas, yet he was trapped within this 3-foot wheelchair, denied freedom. This time, I could no longer say, "You still have me." In his life, he had possessed far too little. The imperial physician declared he had only 3 months left. Then let these 3 months be lived with abandon. I announced an imperial tour, taking Ning Xiao with me to the south. With civil and military officials by our side and the imperial guard protecting us, Ning Xiao and I finally left the capital. We journeyed southward. He witnessed firsthand how the new tax laws had brought prosperity and contentment to the people. More people walked freely on the streets, and more women were out and about. Not long ago, I had defied immense pressure to repeal the policy that taxed unmarried women past 16 and unmarried men past 20. This change gave those women, once anxious to marry by a certain age, a newfound freedom. Once people gain freedom, they naturally seek to live more vibrantly. I lifted the curfew, and nightlife flourished. Street vendors bustled along the thoroughfares, their lively chatter filling the air. At the night market, a youth performing with ghostly fire captivated all who watched. Ning Xiao stared with envy at the agile youth, unable to tear his gaze away for a long while. By the time we reached Yangzhou, his illness had grown severe. The imperial physician who accompanied us said it was already a miracle he'd managed to endure the journey thus far, and that beyond this point, even they were powerless. I nodded, instructing the physician to prepare a dose of medicine for me. That evening, I carried the medicine to Ning Xiao's room. Ning Xiao took a sip and immediately sensed the medicine tasted off, but he said nothing. He obediently drank it all before remarking, "Did you change the medicine today? It tastes more sour than before." His tongue was sharp. I remained silent, instead undressing and letting my hair fall loose. He finally sensed something was amiss. "What are you doing?" I chuckled softly. "Husband, it's time we consummate our marriage." Gong Yao Guang. His face flushed slightly as he gritted his teeth and growled lowly, "I am your elder brother. We cannot." "You may call me brother if you wish." "Brother, husband. You've kept me in the dark for so long. Do you not like me?" He clenched his jaw, his voice faltering with each word. I climbed onto his bed and bit gently at his neck. "You're perfectly capable, yet you push me away. This is your punishment." "Yao, I'm crippled. In my heart, through 3 lifetimes, you're always my greatest hero." He gradually succumbed to my whispers. As I stripped him bare, he seized my hand, his voice raspy, there's one thing I've kept from you. Before the ninth prince marched to the capital, he sent men to protect our residences. He truly cared for you. Back then, consumed by jealousy, I intercepted that message. If you ever changed your mind, you could have reunited with him. I paused. This must be what the ninth prince never finished saying. So he had diverted troops to protect me. This loyalty felt more genuine than in the previous 2 lifetimes. Too bad I no longer cared. What I truly desired, I already possessed. I smiled and continued. I like it when you get jealous. Feel free to indulge more often, I love sour flavors. That night, we drifted in ecstasy, indulging without restraint. 7 days later, Ningxiao died. He died in my bed. He said, to die beneath peonies is to be a romantic ghost. Next life, I must live freely. He said, I entrust the realm to you. I rest easy. Our mothers, the Empress Dowager and the Dowager Empress, would surely be proud. He said, Yao, I'm sorry. This is as far as I can accompany you. Stunned, I closed his eyes, dressed, and walked out. Above, the moon hung bleak and lonely. Behind me, the grand eunuch's wails tore at my heart. A single tear fell from my eye. Nothing more. I couldn't help but think, I always believed starting anew would grant my deepest wish. But no. The Great Way has 50 principles, heaven manifests 49, man hides 1. This sole variable pierced my heart clean through. The emperor passed away, and the entourage set off for the capital. The cold jade coffin had been prepared early. After racing back to the capital, I personally oversaw Ning Zhao's funeral rites. 7 days later, I ascended the throne, becoming the first female emperor in the history of the Great Chu. I established the era name Yuanjia and proclaimed a general amnesty. I posthumously honored Ning Xiao with the title Wen. He who governs heaven and earth is called Wen, he who shows benevolence and loves the people is called Wen, he who studies diligently and asks questions is called Wen, he who is loyal, trustworthy, and observes propriety is called Wen. He truly deserved this character. On the eve of the burial, I went to the imperial harem to see off the deposed former emperor. The enmity between the former emperor and Ning Xiao ran deep. Though father and son, they had become bitter enemies. I could not allow Ning Xiao to wait in the underworld for the former emperor's death to settle old scores. I decided to send the former emperor down first, so he could clarify all grievances and debts before the king of hell. I also bestowed a bowl of medicine upon the deposed ninth prince. Drinking this potion, his muteness would naturally be cured. I arranged the news of his death and ordered him banished from the imperial garden. Henceforth, the ninth prince ceased to exist in this world, and the Great Chu gained one more subject. Before his departure, he clamored insistently to see me one last time, threatening to throw himself to his death in the imperial garden otherwise. Reflecting that few of my old companions remained, I went to see him. By then, his gauntness bore a strange resemblance to Ning Xiao. He demanded angrily why I had spared him. Before I could answer, he seemed to grasp something and declared, "You know now. You know I even sent men to protect you back then. Do you regret treating me that way?" I shook my head. "Seeing you still so full of life, I trust you've thrived among the common folk. This puts my mind at ease. You may go now." "Hey, Gong Yao Guang. I promised to do 3 things for you, I haven't finished yet. You concealed the whereabouts of those courtesans, that was the first. When the imperial forces advanced, you sent men to protect me, that was the second. The third was asking you to live well as a subject of Great Chu. This matter is settled. Our debts are paid. Farewell." I turned and strode away. Lu Chui, now my eldest aunt, walked with halting steps. Along the way, she told me the ninth prince had wept, watching me for a very long time. He looked pitiful. "Your Majesty, as emperor, you may take several consorts. The ninth prince is quite handsome, though thin now, he'll regain his strength with proper care." I found myself inexplicably recalling Ning Zhao's face, lost in melancholy for a long while. Snapping back to reality, I replied coolly, "Men only slow my reading of memorials. Do not speak of this again." I immersed myself in official duties daily, often venturing incognito to observe the people's plight. Months later, I welcomed a daughter, whom I named Xiaoning. In the early years of the Yuanjia era, I installed heaven-reaching drums along Chang'an's main streets. Commoners bearing grievances could strike these drums, their cries reaching the heavens. In the third year of the Yuanjia era, I enacted the rewards and punishments edict. Those who cultivated new land were rewarded, and households with surplus grain were rewarded. Those who governed harshly and arbitrarily were punished, and those who caused population displacement were punished. Thus, the people's hearts gradually turned toward me. In the fifth year of the Yuanjia era, I selected the first cohort of female officials from the Imperial Academy for Women to enter the court and participate in governance, standing on equal footing with the male ministers. In the 10th year of the Yuanjia era, I widely recruited scholars nationwide to compile books, selecting talented individuals from among them to serve as officials. For a time, the capital was filled with literary luminaries, gathering heroes from across the land. In the 15th year of the Yuanjia era, I broadened avenues for expression and established the imperial examination system. From then on, those with outstanding abilities could rise to prominence, while pedantic scholars, even if skilled in poetry and prose, found it difficult to hold office. In the 20th year of the Yuanjia era, I conferred the title of imperial princess on Xiaoning and proclaimed a general amnesty. The sixth prince, who had been confined in the imperial garden, was released. By then, he appeared decrepit, resembling a man of 60. Upon hearing rumors of someone attempting to lure him back into power, he himself reported that person to the authorities. In the 30th year of the Yuanjia era, Crown Princess Xiaoning assumed regency. I led the civil and military officials, along with court ladies, to perform the Fengshan ritual at Mount Tai. In the 40th year of the Yuanjia era, I abdicated in favor of Crown Princess Xiaoning, retreating to the position of retired emperor and relocating to Changning Palace. In the second year of my retirement, news arrived from the imperial mausoleum. Gong Chiyue had died. The commander overseeing her guard reported that at the moment of her death, she was delirious, muttering only one phrase over and over, "Can't be reborn? Why? Let me be reborn, I'll trade my life for it. I beg you, let me be reborn. I don't want to be destroyed. I don't want to." She died in agony and despair. My father chose death to save her. After his passing, I exiled Gong Chiyue to the imperial mausoleum, condemning her to build it for the rest of her life, a place destined to be my final resting place. In my third year as the retired emperor, I felt vitality rapidly draining from my body. Calculating my age at this point, I was barely over 60, yet I hadn't even lived as long as my previous 2 lifetimes. I asked Liu Tsue, how could this be? I've achieved more than in my previous lives, everything has gone according to my wishes. Why have I not lived as long as before? Liu Tsui shook her head, weeping, clutching my hand desperately and crying out, "Miss, please wait a little longer. His Majesty is coming. He is already on his way." In a daze, I saw a woman clad in imperial robes sprinting toward me. Her scalding hot tears splashed onto my parched hand. Staring into her tear-filled eyes, I saw the figure of another person reflected in her gaze. "Xiao, you've come to fetch me." "I'm coming." In the third year of Tianqi, the first empress of the Great Chu Kingdom passed away. She was posthumously titled Yuan and buried alongside Emperor Wen in the imperial mausoleum. In the third year of Empress Xiaoning's reign, she discovered Emperor Yuan's annotations in a poetry collection. "If longing doesn't pierce the bones, one knows not its agony. Only when knowing its agony does one realize the beloved has turned to dust." She closed the book, tears streaming down her face. The story ends here. Thank you all for your companionship. See you in the next chapter.